green afternoon, green evening, wherever you are world over. We extend a very warm welcome to all our brothers and sisters across the world in different countries, in different continents, in different time zones. We all human beings are one family. It's a global family. And if you think that way, the world would be a beautiful place and we all can take care of each other. There can be a love, there can be a gratitude, there can be a guidance, there can be a respect, there can be a trust, there can be a care, there can be empathy, there can be affection, and there can be happiness all around, world over, wherever you are. It all depends on how you feel inside and how do you reflect outside. So on behalf of International Chamber for Service Industry, we extend a very warm welcome to all of you. And this morning in America, this afternoon in Europe, and this evening in India, we are having a wonderful audience, but at the same time, let me extend a very warm welcome to our distinguished speakers. We have been joined by Madam Marilyn Turkovich. She's the Executive Director, International Charter for Compassion, all the way from United States. She's on the West Coast, and you can well imagine it's an early morning, 6:30 a.m. You can well imagine the commitment. And when I was talking in a pre-room before this, and ma'am told me she already had one program somewhere around 4:30, 4:45 in India, I'm sure that is something, a deep commitment of someone. And particularly when you're talking about education, value education. We will also be joined by Madam Rakhi Sharma. She's the founder, Showers of Compassion, mindful leadership coach, and a facilitator. We would be having her in a little while. And meanwhile, let me just proceed so that we all are on the common frequency. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of International Chamber for Service Industry, that is the chamber where we take care of market research, policy advocacy, innovative strategies, consultancy, and training programs, particularly with the help of Indian diaspora. We call them non-resident Indians. Those have gone abroad. There are 31.4 million people abroad. We also have interface with the corporate sector and, of course, various ministries and the government, what we have got. Together, we just build up the entire thing. Over here, I wish to share that during this particular pandemic and this crisis, when the whole world had different challenges, we just thought of it right from 25th of March 2020, when the lockdown was declared, that why not we should focus on basically when doctors, nurses, paramedical people are taking care of health sector, why not we should join hands with UNESCO and we should work out 1.65 billion children being away from schools, colleges, universities, institutions, polytechnics, ITIs, skill centers. Why not to do something with them? So the entire education ecosystem empowerment is needed when 1.65 billion children being away. And at the same time, there could be some social issues like water conservation, global wellness, micro, small, and medium enterprise, and certain partnerships can be developed world over. In Hindi, you call it Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, but in English, we call it the world is one family. We all are collaborating as a human being with each other. Our chamber organizes almost 28 programs every week. 28 programs, 28 webinars, on the average 4 webinars every day. Today is a historic day. It's a very, very important day today, because today India completes 1 year of its new education policy, which was declared on 29th of July 2020. Last year, the Honorable Prime Minister of India gave the green signal and the clearance to the new education policy. And this particular new education policy, which is a game changer, because over here, right from the 6th class, you've got coding, you've got vocational, you've got skills. There is no extracurricular or co-curricular or a sports or something. Everything is the integral part of education. And then there are no tight compartments between arts, commerce, and science. Anybody can pick up any combination. The art student can pick up one science subject, and the science student can take music, and the commerce student can pick up fashion designing. So that is the kind of a combination, the new pedagogy and the new andragogy and all the kind of things whatsoever has to be thought of. And today we complete 1 year. What a beautiful historic day. 29th of July 2020, the new policy was given. And today, as per India's time at 4:30 p.m., the Honorable Prime Minister of India addressed the nation, and the new education minister, skill minister, Shri Dharmendra Pradhanji, and the entire eco-fraternity of the education, they all were there. Now, this COVID-19, when we talk about this pandemic, it has created a lot of impacts, negative, positive, couple of things. You will say positive, I'll share with that. And how is it positive? Education has become more accountable. It has become more transparent. It is becoming more open. And now accessibility is such, it's not a privilege of few only in the urban areas or in the big towns or big metros. Now up to the rural areas, if you have the internet connectivity, you can see it. Next part is you can see the same lesson again and again as many times as you want. So 30% people, now this is a Microsoft study, and particularly Madam Marilyn, who is very near to the Seattle when I talk about, and the Microsoft office, which I generally visit when I travel by road from Los Angeles to British Columbia University. So 30% of the remote and the first line workers say that the pandemic has increased the burnout at work, but 70% of the people say meditation could help decrease work-related stress quite a bit. Now, it has got its own challenges, COVID-19, mental health issues are there, physical health issues are there, anxiety, depression, and stress. Last night, we had a very powerful webinar that was global drug trafficking, how the youth are going to be impacted post-COVID-19, and particularly when people will come out, there'll be fallout, children will not go to schools and colleges and institutions. What's going to happen at that point of time, we took yesterday. And particularly some of the people will have, physical challenges, financial challenges. Some of them would be losing their jobs. Somebody has already lost a job. So quite a bit of challenges are going to come. And particularly when you talk about it, share of the entire progeny and the humanity, when you talk about how the depressive disorders during the COVID-19, if you talk about different age groups, we are giving you over here. You can see it because this program is live on YouTube. You can see it later. Now, youths have a noteworthy role in a nation building, and particularly your wellness dimensions are very, very important. During this pandemic, we have done almost 100 webinars with the Wellness Sector Skill Council in India, where we have taken the emotional part, financial part, social part, spiritual part, occupational part, physical, intellectual, environmental part, all areas of wellness. This is something which we are closely working on, because United Nations and particularly UNESCO, when you talk about over there, if you take into consideration, almost 35.6 million people worldwide, they suffered from the drugs disorder in 2018. So last evening, we had a very powerful deliberations, and we had a discussion, and we have sent across the report to the UNESCO right over there in France. And we have also sent across to the headquarters over here in Delhi in India. Now, what do we need? We need a holistic education. Education and skills alone are not going to solve the problem. Children need entrepreneurship, they need startup, they need economic power, they need jobs. And particularly when you look at the present scenario, 149 countries where our chamber has got a presence world over, basic food, basic health, and basic education. And B2B is no more business to business. It's back to basics of life. A lot of research which we are carrying out, synthesize information, we are going to submit on 15th of August on India's Independence Day. So ladies and gentlemen, whatsoever human mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Let's get together, all of us together. It's a proud privilege. We have been joined by Madam Marilyn Turkovich, Executive Director, International Charter for Compassion, all the way from the United States, from the Western Coast. We extend her a very warm welcome. And since 2013, she's doing a great very deep work as education director. And since that time, she has moved into several different roles with the CFC, that is a Charter for Compassion. Now, she has a background which is primarily in higher education and more specifically in directing teachers training program. That is something very important because teachers needs empowerment at this point of time. And the new education policy in India which has come, there is a more emphasis on teachers training than to be imparting, teaching centric. No, it's a learning centric, it's a hand holding. And there are a couple of things which we have done, programs with Australia, New Zealand, and Europe. I'll share in this session itself. For the Associated Colleges of the Midwest and chairing Columbia College Chicago Master's Program in Multicultural and Global Education, that is from Madam Marilyn. She has done a considerable amount of curriculum writing through the years, much of it related to international and cultural topics. And she has worked with the Independent Broadcasting Associates on a series of airing on National Public Radio, BBC, and Australian Broadcasting Organization. There was a period in the 1990s when she worked in the organizational development and specialized in instructional design work, strategic planning, and leadership development. She also wrote and developed training on a race and a social justice initiative. We extend her a very warm welcome. It's a pleasure to have her. We have also been joined with us by Madam Rakhi Sharma. She is the founder, Showers of Compassion, mindful leadership coach, and a facilitator. She is the India lead for the education sector, Charter for Compassion India. She has been coaching for 11 years and has total 21 years of work experience in the field of learning, development, and marketing. She is the founder of Coming Home Mindfulness Cultivation Program, offered globally as a support to people impacted by COVID-19. She had been associated with the Aprajita Women L&D award-winning program for 5 years as a coach and a facilitator. Prior to becoming a mindful leadership coach and facilitator, she had worked for Biotric, Max New York Life, and Mary Kay in training and marketing. She believes in the ancient Indian philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means the world is one family. She is passionate about bringing satisfaction and joy in people's lives by coaching and facilitating them to explore and utilize the huge reservoir of untapped potential that each one of us possess. So, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Madam Amrita S. Dudhia, who is in a transit at this point of time, she's traveling by road from Udaipur to Jodhpur. She's our advisor for the Chamber for the Western India region. And she's also a director of the Institute of Leadership and Skill Development right over there in Rajasthan. And we extend a very warm welcome this morning to Madam Marilyn and Madam Rakhi. And I would make a humble request to Madam Marilyn. She should hold her cup of coffee and tea. She should enjoy that because she had one session before and this is the next session she is doing. So I'm in hats off to the lady. As a soldier, I salute her in a great way. So ladies and gentlemen, join me in extending a very warm welcome to both the ladies, those are joining us today. It's a great, great pleasure. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming and thanks for joining. And Marilyn, why don't you hold your cup of coffee and tea? I want you should have it next to you and keep some drinking water also there. Because although I'm having a cup, but then I've got a warm water in this because that's much better. So let's start with Madam Marilyn, because today's subject, when we are talking about value education, let's see what all is there in that. With these words, I extend a very warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What's in values education? That's a huge question, but one that we've all grown up answering, no matter where we live in the world. And I think that, if all of us would take a minute and go back to our childhood and our association with people in our family and in our community, we would begin to see what are the values associated with growth, with development, with interaction and communication. So that if I go back as an immigrant kid, I was born in the United States. My family was not. But I lived in a neighborhood of immigrants. And it was so interesting as I begin to reflect um, uh, at what was being done socially between people. They helped one another. They asked questions of one another to see how the health was of another person, what they could do. They had gardens in their backyard, even though I grew up in a mill town. Everyone had a very small plot of ground, and their gardens fed not only their immediate family, but the neighbors, and they shared. So, those are values, values of kindness, values of listening, and listening to the point where you really are listening and you are learning to ask questions of one another, and you're learning to respond to the kinds of answers that you're given. There's values of kindness. There's values of inquiry. Um, and there's also values of putting compassion into action. And when I say that, there's a line, that an emotional line that people have, so that initially when you see something that tugs at your heart, it might be sympathy. And oftentimes sympathy is associated with pity. But you move from pity, you move to really trying to embrace the situation with sympathy. But then you move into empathy, where there's a little bit of hope that's associated with that. And then you move into an action, which is compassion, and the action itself is kindness. So there's that line that we all experience, and we're learning more and more every day in neuroscience about how this is just normal in every single person. And so that the more that we learn, the more that we can take what we understand about human interaction and the need for self-compassion. Another thing, if you look back, um, and I'm saying this, coming from a society that is, uh, I love this word, teleologically oriented, so future directed. And as you're looking forward, you're totally missing what's in the present. And so that other kind of value is the value of understanding the growth and possibility of a human family, a family of diversity, a family of the community in which you live, the nation in which you live, and the world, obviously. And so I think I'll stop there because I don't know if there's another question or if we'll take it to
No,
Rocky.
no, it's so fascinating. And first of all, I must convey my deep gratitudes and thanks to a lady early in the morning. You can't imagine, because being a soldier coming from the armed forces, I've got so much of respect. Somebody can be so committed that you already had one session at 4:30 in the morning, and this is the second session you're having at 6:30 in the morning in United States. And it's a mind blowing, your commitment and all the factors which you connected over here in such a short, crisp, and sweet time. Childhood, you took to our those school days and everything, neighborhood. I'm still trying to remember. Then sympathy, empathy, action, compassion, human interaction, future directed society, missing present, and then family of community. Yes, great inputs of yours.
Well, I think that one thing, and then I really will stop, is that it's so amiss of us to try and plan for even right now without taking a glimpse at what we have learned from the past, because there's such a richness there that helps really point us to a much more holistic way of thinking. It points to the fact that we knew that there was poverty when we grew up. We now know it because of social media, but we've not allowed ourselves, many of us who have privilege in our lives, to really integrate that, what we saw in the past with what we now see on social media. And it's a separation, but in truth, as you indicated at the beginning of the show, it's not a separation. We are a human family, and there is a common humanity that we need to pay attention to.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We appreciate such a valuable input of yours, which you have given. Now let me move from United States all the way from the western coast of California. You're reminding me because I teach at Pepperdine University, Woodbury University. I go to British Columbia. So you're reminding me so many things early in the morning driving down. I used to start early in the morning so that I reach timely the British Columbia, Vancouver. Let me move on to Rakhi. Rakhi, let's hearty welcome to you. And in your complete profile, you talked about Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, and that's what our chamber is working. You will be surprised to know, in a very polite way, if I put it, yes, I have to put it in a very polite way. Can you imagine that today is 1085th webinar of our chamber? And the title is Making Education and Skills Relevant During this COVID. We started on 25th of March. And recently we had the entire team of the UNESCO from France. And they all were there with us. And we all deliberated and discussed. It's a 1085 webinar. And how much is our global family? You can't imagine, 149 countries we are having a confluence. And I want to share a secret early in the morning for Madam and evening for Rakhi. I'm learning every time. I'm learning every time. It's a great learning. It's a great learning. I want to remain a humble student. That's the way. So with these words, I extend a very warm welcome to Rakhi, and kindly share your views, please. Let's take the vision forward, value education.
Thank you so much for inviting me here, Dr. Gulshan Sharma. And I would like to thank Amrita, who got in touch with me, and she initiated the conversation. And I roped in Marilyn because nobody better than Marilyn to come here and talk about it. Because when we talk about Vasudev Kutumbakam, it has to be someone who has seen the world, who experiences world day in, day out. And I chose her not just because she's the head, she's the executive director of Charter for Compassion, but I've interacted with her, and I could sense that it's not just running an organization, but you have to live those values. Remember, without values, I don't think so anything we function from any other place, but it has to be our beliefs and values. And it could be, let me say, when we say values, they could be either beneficial ones or they could be harmful ones. It's very important to have these distinctions. That are they pro-social values, or are they centric in a very small way about I, me, myself. And while Marilyn was sharing about her childhood, I also remember, and who I am now, it is so much to do about what I experienced in my childhood. And values is something I would say it's not about like a value education in the classroom, but how one is being in day-to-day life. How are we interacting? How are we actually behaving with people, with a closer circle or with the larger circle? Because so many times we can put a front that we are nice, we're kind, but how we are with the closest of people or the poorest of people or people who really need it. And I have been very fortunate that I've been born in a family which is full of generosity, full of kindness, because I'll give a little background so that you will understand that why I do what I do. And this would probably give a sense to the youth or those who are listening to Marilyn and me, and obviously you, Dr. Gulshan Sharma, and then Amrita will join in, that my grandfather shifted from Pakistan to India in 1945, much before partition. And his rest of his family shifted when there was partition. And we all know what happened in India. There was so much of death, there was so much of loss. And we hosted 39 people at home in our small house. And we never had meals all alone. We always had somebody coming and living. So when we talk about value, I would say what a child grows up into. What is a child seeing? And it's an unsaid code that happens in the family and in the environment, in the community. That is where the child learns. That's where I would say that is the nursery of the child. So it's very important that if we really want value education, that to pro-social one, we have to be very clear what kind of values do we want our youth to have is very, very pertinent question. Values could be anything. As I said, they could be helpful, beneficial, or they could be harmful. But are we actually living those values in our environment? We can go into the classrooms and talk about a lot of things. Parents can say this is good and that is not good. Don't use social media, don't use internet, don't use phone. But if the child is seeing that the parent is himself or herself engaged, do you really think that the child is going to grow up in a good value system? Or the teacher is giving a very good lecture and doing a very good class, but is not kind to the child, or is not behaving or conducting oneself in a kind way, not just with the students, but they are also observing how the teacher is talking to the janitor, is talking to the colleagues, and then I would say it's just basically the environment. So if we are living these values which are pro-social, like why I say pro-social, because it's all about interconnectedness. It is all about common humanity. It is all about inclusiveness, authenticity. So if the people who are driving the education, if they are not coming from that space, then I'm sorry to say, no matter how many policies you create, the people who are actually administering, if they are not trained and they don't embody what is being taught, then I'm sorry, there would not be any change, no change. This is what I have to share.
Great. Thank you very much. Valuable inputs, Rakhi. You have to believe and live those values. That something is a very powerful statement which you made mention. Madam Marilyn and Madam Rakhi, we will get into some practical part of it now because I want to move on from here. Our topic is value education, which Amrita has chosen. It's her forte. She has taken it. But coming a long way, last about 50 years, being associated deeply with the policy framework, school education, higher education, technical education, vocational education. When I'm in mid 70s today, I realize that one question which comes to my mind time and again, we lost a lot of people on this planet during this corona. And one of my very bosom friend, very close friend, we lost him also, Sir Ken Robinson. One of the great souls as far as education reforms are concerned, education policy is concerned, education empowerment is concerned, global education fraternity ecosystem is concerned. Now, everything is fine. Are we understanding what does youth want? Everything is fine. Everything is okay. Curriculum, modification, new modules, technology, social media, everything. Are we understanding ultimately what does youth want? What makes youth happy? What exactly? Because I'm thinking from my era. I'm thinking from my perspective. I'm thinking from my times. Are we really keeping a pace? Time has caught on speed and the technology is playing very important role. And now after this session, when Madam Marilyn will go for a sleep little while, and that time she would dream about what should be the next education policy and reform world over, and what should we do? My question is, everything fine, whatever we are doing, and I've got few questions which I'll take on later. Are we listening inside core voice of children? Is value education being imposed? Are they really ready? Are they really ready to take on those values? And what are the values they have set for themselves? And they would tell me, if I don't listen to my grandchild, he will say, Grandpa, you sit in that corner, fine. I'll give you nice food. I'll look after you. I'll give you respect. I'll give you everything. But please don't spoil my day. Don't come on my way. Now there comes a question. What education? What kind of education? What subjects? Okay. Should it not be relevant to my day-to-day life? When I get up in the morning and when I go to sleep, whatever I am performing during my day, should that not be a part of my education ecosystem? So where do I fit in? What value I'm talking about? What parents are performing? I'm telling my child, please tell uncle I'm not at home. I'm telling my son, please tell uncle I am not at home. So what value am I passing on? What value am I giving? And what do I expect from my child? And my son is also very smart. He's telling, uncle, my dad is telling me to tell you that he's not at home. Please, anything else you would like to convey? So tell me, where are we heading? What are we talking? Where the world is? Are we keeping a pace? How much technology? What do we adopt? What values? Which kind of values? What packaging of values? Because I got to respect every human being on this planet, and everybody has a right to live, eat, dance, music, art, craft, culture their own way. Why not? Marilyn, please, ma'am.
Okay. As you're talking, I'm thinking of two illustrations, and I'm sorry I can't draw them. One is by the Jesuit theologian, anthropologist, Desjardins, and he talks about how we have been moving in a spiral, that we keep going, and we're moving from the alpha to the omega, and we go up, but sometimes we have to go down as we move forward. The other is just a simple illustration of being at a tipping point. And so through all of your excitement that you've given us, I think that what we need to look for are a number of things. No, we don't listen to children very often. We don't know how to ask questions of one another. We don't know how not to insert our own wisdom into what other people are saying. And so that we don't have a contributive, holistic dialogue. And I think that's part of the tipping point, that it is time that we have to have that kind of dialogue, because education is really being challenged with the way that it has been. And it's being challenged because obviously it's been brought to the forefront because of the pandemic. But in truth, the thing is that all of that education that we have been using has really set us back, because we have not been good about listening and really projecting collectively what we're going to do. So that the lack of technology, for example, in our education, because we know that youth really accelerate their own learning through technology. And those who don't have advantage of having technology are really falling behind. And so there's an awful lot that we can do, people who have the ability to not only get money, but to provide old equipment so that people can regenerate it. That we need to begin to think about leveling the playing field. We need to teach about, through conversation and through good work, social responsibility, civic responsibility, that there is no government leader, there is no council of people that are going to be able to accomplish the kind of work that needs to be done. If we don't have cross-pollination of conversation, if I don't have conversation with my neighbors who I might not like, or if I am in another part of the world, if it's a religious conversation between different denominations, different groups of people, if that's not had, we are going to have this drift, this gully that exists that's growing into a real chasm, and it will get wider and wider, and it is all over the world. It's obviously in India, it's definitely in the United States. You think about what's happening in Europe as people move, because people move usually politically to the right because they are scared. They don't know what's happening. They don't know what the next step is. And so that has to be a dialogue. And, you know, sometimes we shut schools down because of the pandemic. What we probably missed out on is this was an opportunity, and you know, wisdom comes to us and as we pass in time. But part of that year could have been where we were really dialoguing and trying to figure out, you know, how are we going to live differently as a family? What are we going to do differently in our community? When schools open, you know, what is it that really needs to be taught and what needs to be embraced by human beings that are a part of the school? The internet is really exciting. Kids learned from it, but what they need to do is to learn with discernment. So what's the role of the teacher? You know, in the past, let's tackle this information, let's get the information right. But now the role of the teacher is to say, let's critique this. Let's look at this critically with real discernment, because is this the fact? Is this, you know, the real answer to something? So all of our roles are changing. Our roles of, you know, being protectors, for example, are changing. That's a collective role that people can take on in a family. I mean, we could look at all aspects of human life and say, you know, how are we moving forward, moving backwards, and where do we want to go? Where do we need to go? What are those answers that need to be made? So I think, you know, just to go back, are we listening? No, we don't know until we begin a dialogue with youth at all ages, what their needs are, what their fears are. The Olympics are teaching us something where young people are saying, wow, you know, and it's not only just one, you know, key person, but a number of athletes are saying, what is this? What is this pressure that I feel? You know, do I need to take time to be self-compassionate? If I'm self-compassionate, then I can, and only then can I be compassionate to other people. And can I begin then to understand the compassion that's needed to bring about change within a system, any system?
Great, great. A great input. And I'm still over there when you told spiral, spiral. You just go up, again you are there, again spiral. Oh my God. Now, Raki, I've got a very important and a straight question to you, because you are in India, you understand Indian youth very well, the population, the bubbling energy and all that. And something which Marilyn made a mention, something very interesting. Are we listening? That was a beautiful word she used. Are we listening? That meant, are we listening to our youth? Okay, great. Now, my question to you is very straight. Let's take it. We are talking about value education. I'm with you. We want that. Everything is fine. My question again comes, what does youth want? What does youth want? How would you like to take on this forward?
So let's understand that when there is a problem or a question, we can't take it in isolation. Am I right? If the youth is there, youth was a child some point of time.
Should I put it a little more harsh?
Yeah, please go ahead.
No, not for you.
Huh.
For the subject I'm talking about. Not
Sure, sure. Why not? Why
for
not?
you, I've got to be extra courteous and polite. If I put the subject as a harsh,
sure, go ahead.
Why do I study? Why do I take education? Why do I require skill? Why should I skill myself? Can you give me a job? Can you guarantee me a job? Can you make me entrepreneur? Can you make me startup? Everything is fine. At the end of the day, I'm a soldier. Army cannot march on empty stomach. Army needs ammunition and it needs the belly to be full. For that matter, the child would ask a question, why are you teaching me this subject in isolation? I don't impose me with so many things. Give me what is relevant to my life, my living, my future, my survival. And look, my parents are expecting, when will you start earning? When will you get your pocket money? And I'm quite worried. Post-pandemic, the children, those are going to drop out from schools, colleges, universities, institutions, particularly the girls, those are going to drop out. See on the other side, the drug mafia is waiting because all channels were closed during this pandemic. They are waiting. And these children will become the prey over there. Where we would be heading? Somewhere, education has to be directly linked. That what is the outcome? Here is the input and here is the output, not the spiral, what Marilyn made a mention. Please give me Rakhi on that.
So could you just specify the question, because you shared a lot, so you can specify a question and then it'll
What
be
is the
easy for me
purpose?
to answer.
What is the purpose of education?
So
Very
when you
simple.
say, yeah, so when you say purpose of education, it's very important that are we seeing it in totality?
Yes.
If we are seeing in totality, then we got to see all the stakeholders which are part of education. And anything cannot exist in isolation. When we say education, so education for what? Can we specify? If we say everything, then probably we would not be able to talk about everything. So if you can specify in education, which is a specific thing that you would like to, ask me, it'll be very easy for me to answer you.
Okay. Sir Ken Robinson identified education has got 4 purposes. The most important is economic purpose. Second is preserving your culture. Third is preserving your social norms. And the fourth is further more important than all other 3. That's called personal purpose. Why do I study this subject? Why do I get into art or commerce or science or medical or non-medical? Or why do I acquire a particular skill?
So I guess you would be talking about the personal education, the internal education. Am I right?
Ma'am, value-based education is your agenda. Mine is the economic agenda.
Sure, but if you can specify, so I'm just starting from, let's say, if there are four parts of the value education. Let me say, whatever is an outcome, like maybe somebody wanting to make an earning, or maybe somebody wanting to excel in the knowledge space, but it has to happen through the vehicle of the individual. Am I right? It cannot happen that ways. So when we're talking about an individual, and values are something internal, it's not something external. So to talk about an internal existence of a person, and when we are questioning it, Are we also looking into it that why have we come to this place? Why have we come here? What has gone in the past? Like what Marilyn said, that we can't be seeing it in the isolation. We will have to see in the past. If you're talking about youth today, and if you want to really make the change, is the environment conducive to see the change happening? Are we making it relevant or not? I'll just give a small example. I'm a mindful leadership coach and a facilitator, and I go and do trainings in the corporates. So let's say the corporates invite us for 2 days of training, and I'm inviting you to have what I'm sharing in a symbolic way. Now I go and I deliver a fantastic training, and participants are also saying, wow, what a great training, and they give a great feedback and they go back. But where do they go back? They go back to the old environment. And do you think in the environment which is going the same way, the way it is behaving, do you think the person who has had 2 days of training, or maybe 3 days or 1 week of training, will the person be able to sustain in that environment? No. So when we're talking about youth and that why education, we will also have to understand that the youth is living in an environment. There's an ecosystem. And if we really want to make the change, are we seeing the whole ecosystem? That if the child says, I don't want to study, we also understand that why do we teach subjects? But are we giving that space to the child and to assurance to the parent that if you are okay to take another route, will there be opportunities? Will there be acceptance? Will there be some kind of environment where the child thrives and goes through the journey? What I've heard so much about Sir Ken Robinson, he talks about creativity. Are we ready to take the risk? So when we really want to tackle something, Dr. Gulshan Sharma, it's important we have to see things in totality. We will have to see it as a system. If we want to change a piece, we will have to see what are the components of the whole system. And are we actually bringing the change over there? Like for instance, education is all about teachers. But my question is that what kind of teachers are we having? Who are the people who want to become teachers? Let's understand. I mean, the best of the brains, they will become engineers, or they will become entrepreneurs, they will become doctors, and so on and so forth. But do you think that somebody says, okay, this is my first choice in a general sense? No, we don't get best of the people in the education sector. Only very, very few people will say, no matter what, I'm going to be there. Now, if a person whose first choice was not being a teacher, and when goes over there, and we all know the situation of schools, no matter how great we say the school is, but we know how much freedom a teacher has. Then when the child goes there and learns over there with a teacher who is not taking education as a first choice, is not getting appropriately paid or taken care of the social, the emotional and mental well-being, do you really think what would be just imagine the impact on the child? And then when the child becomes a youth, and then suddenly we wake up to this thing that we must do something about the youth. We will have to understand that if we want to make a change in one piece of the puzzle, we'll have to look into the whole puzzle. We have to see that is there enough safety that if the child says, I'm not going to do it, and the parent also says, okay, son, or okay, daughter, you are okay to go ahead. Does the environment, the industry around, or the vocation around, or the opportunity around says, okay, you've not gone through the regular education, but we see you very well groomed in what you want, what you're doing. So we have to see things, Dr. Sharma, in totality. We can't say one problem and this is a solution and go ahead. Okay. I'll just add one thing. I know I'm adding. We know this phone. This is a communication medium. Now, this came as a solution and convenience, isn't it? We had, big phones and they were attached to a cord, and slowly we had cordless, and then now we have phones we walk with it. But what happened? When we are looking for a solution, only a solution from a problem, we don't even know that solution can become a problem. So when we are actually looking into Actually looking into finding solutions. We have to stop thinking, okay, this is the answer. We have to collectively sit. All the stakeholders have to sit. They have to leave their past knowledge and be open to break their minds so that they can think freely, and also to be open to take questions from the youth, questions from parents. It cannot be like, okay, we've designed a policy and here it is good for you, but are we making it relevant and are we making it safe and conducive for people to make the change? So here is what I will not be able to give you a direct answer because there is no direct answer for the problem that we're discussing today.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Very valuable inputs, Rakhi, because in totality, when we are talking about now, Marilyn, ma'am, we have got 9 more minutes. 1 minute I'll take and 4 minutes both of you each can take. No problem. If I take more than a minute, then I'll give you a little extra time. Okay. Now coming on to, I will take a question from Rakhi's point that everything has to be discussed in totality. Let me discuss in totality. When you talk about education, education has become very costly. Education has become non-affordable at most of the places, most of the locations, most of the countries, wherever you talk about. Children have taken a huge loan, which they are not in a position even to repay back, and they do not know what they will do with that. Okay. Very uncertain conditions. Nobody knows whether third wave will come or not. The other day, I was having a Canadian webinar and they told we had a third wave, very short, and it has gone, thank God, but we do not know the fourth wave also may come. We are not aware of. Anyway, so very uncertain futures. Nobody is telling anything about that. During this particular time, you have made a mention, key statement, education is being challenged. Yeah, that is the key question which I would like to take on from there. And, you know, there is a northeast part of India, 8 beautiful states are there. And coming from the armed forces background, I served length and breadth over there, 8 beautiful states, and which Honorable Prime Minister of India is also giving a lot of emphasis, a lot of focus. There is a gentleman who is a headmaster in one of the states over there in Meghalaya, Mr. Tyrone. He's joining us on the YouTube and he has posted a comment over here. He says, if sub-Saharan nations can gift electronic devices to their children for education, why this is not being addressed over here? We got to think about it very, very seriously. Secondly, somebody has written, the digital divide is getting wider and frighteningly, if this divide is not addressed immediately, India will have a staggering number of the dropouts from schools, colleges, institutions. Now, very simple. Very simple. All my non-resident Indian, because our chamber is dedicated to Indian diaspora people, those are abroad. We have already discussed enough. We have made an appeal. Next 5 years, no investment in India, only in education. And there also, don't give direct money. Give the appliances, give the devices, give the mobile, give the laptop, give the iPads, and no more classroom physically infrastructure to be constructed or built. Why not to have a digital highway, more bandwidth, reach out. I think this particular pandemic, it is after industrial era revolution, when we adopted that industrial, you know, you remember that factory kind of a teaching, students sitting in front and benches and all that, teacher, a teaching centric. Now somebody asked, I think both of you, I can't recollect who made a mention. The other day I had a webinar with Australia. It was wonderful. And they all were think tank of Australia when I was talking. And you know what they told? They told in industrial era, the education was teaching centric. From there, we moved now with the new education policy in India, learning centric. This particular pandemic has put the wheels and the speed and acceleration. What was to be achieved in next 10 years in education, it has come a hybrid, or it has come a flip learning, or a blended learning, or a digital learning, outside classroom learning. We have covered next 10 years what we were supposed to cover on a normal pace. And now he says, the role of a teacher. That was a mind-blowing out of the roof when he told, there is no teacher. There is no future teacher. Nobody can teach you anything. Enough of knowledge is available. Now we are co-learners. Oh, what a statement he made, a mention, think tank strategist. They told if we become a co-learner, that means somebody would know something, somebody would know something, somebody would know something. One more question, Madam Marilyn, which comes over here, and to Rakhi also. Let's
Maybe,
take,
wait a minute. Can I just interject? You
yeah,
took your minute. You
sorry.
already took a minute, and so we're not going to be able to.
Oh, please go ahead. Please go ahead. I'll take, because so many questions are pouring in a mind. This is a very important session. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
I think that when we go back to what Rocky was saying about the totality of things and those wonderful comments that people have made, which are our reality, and we look at our youth, let's look at our youth. What are they looking at? They're looking at a world with extreme climate change. They're looking at expense made by national governments to increase armament. And in the case of India, the United States, and France, and a few other countries, they're looking at the possibility that somebody could make a mistake and the world could blow up because we haven't gotten rid of the nuclear weapons. So that future is bleak for people. And you know, another thing that you were addressing is no more a need, not a need for teachers anymore, co-learners. Well, we're all co-learners. You said that, Dr. Sharma, in the beginning, that you're excited about learning and you want to learn every day. And I think that that's what we need to instill with people. Will there be no more teachers? I question that because of the very fact that what we need teachers to be are really mentors and coaches and guides, questioners, that they are not necessarily in the future the people who are going to do research and find all this information and create all these different processes that we work hard at and bring them into the classroom. You know, Paulo Freire in South America said that, you know, there's an education where it's called banking, where you just kind of open the head and you throw in the information. That's been the past. What we're trying to do now is to really keep the head intact and keep the person intact. So again, we'll go back to the need for listening and cooperation and sharing wealth. You started this whole segment with Sir Robinson's idea of economics. Well, let's look at that. What is it? Does a corporation need to make over 100% income over, you know, what they have done the year before? What is the corporation responsibility to the people in its community? So it is a time for business to really join hands with education, and that educational divide of lack of resources can really be lessened tremendously. Right now, it seems to be very much in the hands of people who are digging in their pockets or looking for old devices to share with students. But think about the possibilities of a bridge between education and business. That will bring us into new entrepreneurialships, and it will really lessen probably the income of a corporation, but in the long run, will it not save us?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very valuable inputs. Extreme climate change, armament, future is bleak, corporate and education sector to work hand in hand. Before I go to Rakhi ma'am, I would request all the participants, those are watching from world over, and particularly my youth, the boys and girls, whether you're in school, you're in college, because I've seen a lot of tourism students, a lot of hotel industry students have joined today's program, and those are joining. I know you have got a biggest challenge at this point of time because tourism has come to standstill, hotel industry has come to standstill. I know. Now, I request all of you, please put a note, please put on YouTube in this particular column, what exactly do you expect from education? What do you want from education? And what do you think about value-based education in your perspective as today's youth and today's younger generation? Rakhi ma'am.
I would say going back to basics, very important. Even when youth will say, I want this, I want that, this should happen, that should happen. But it's very important to actually understand what I really, really want. Am I, when Marilyn says that we are listening, we have to understand that is the youth actually in a space to listen to themselves, that what they really, really need. If they want to have a successful career, then for what? What are the values that they would want to have, and why would they want to have? So it's very important. I would suggest that it's very important that they go back to the basics to understand what are their needs and differentiate between what are their wants. And another thing very important that we have to understand, that when creativity happens, best of the creativity happens when there is a limitation. It's not that when you have too many things. And that is where, innovation happens. So whatever has happened in the past, it's something that was told to us when we were youth, that this is right and this is wrong. Today, the youth has a lot of exposure. So it is time that rather than thinking that I don't have this or that, it is important that, okay, I have, let's say, 3 things. With these 3 things, what can I create? And that is how we will see solutions coming up, collaborations happening, barriers being broken, and then many things happening. And because there's a limitation, then you will think, if I have a limitation, what all can happen with those limited things? And let me tell you, wonders happen when we are put into pressure. Like, for an example, a coal becomes diamond when it is put into pressure. A butterfly becomes a butterfly because when it goes into pressure. Remember that. And it happens in darkness. So as Marilyn has said, and I also personally feel that this is a very important time for us to step back rather than running too fast. We all need to step back to question ourselves, to listen to ourselves, have conversations, and in this limited time, limited resources that we have, or limited things that we have, what new can emerge? And let the answers come from the youth. Let the youth question, let them come and have these dialogues. And a platform like this, it will be nice that some of the youth come, or the youngsters come, be part of the panel discussion, rather than, only the experts coming in, because we need to discover, we need to innovate, we need to have dialogues and conversations. I guess this is an amazing time to create, amazing time to innovate. Let go what is not important, which has become redundant. And because when we'll be able to let go, then only I'll be able to invite something new. So this is what I would like to say.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Great inputs. Thank you very much. Wonderful inputs you have given. And coal becomes a diamond when it's put under pressure is a beautiful statement what you have made over there. And best of creativity happens when you have the limitations and when you are under pressure, and the innovation also comes up over there. You talked about the international part. Let me share with you. 12th of August is the International Youth Day. We are getting 100 youth from 100 countries on this platform. Throughout the day, there are deliberations, and the title is, what does youth want? What does youth want? And that is something. Now, some of us, those join now, my sincere apologies, although we sent across a message to you that today's program has been preponed by 1 hour because our daily schedule is 8 to 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time. But Amrita ji wanted it at 7 p.m. So that's why we have pre-scheduled. So I apologize from all those who did not get the message, because every day from world over, people join at 8 p.m. and they're wondering what's happening already over here. So much of deliberations have taken place. And this is going to be the closing remarks of everything. So Pandit KRG and Roshni and Godek and Balkrishan, Arumugam Srinivasan, and then Nancy Sagma, then Vidhi Kishore, and Kim Kip Gan, and then Nanlai from Meghalaya, then Joba Lakshmi, and Vinay ji, and so many things. Mahesh ji, Tyron, yes, great thanks to you. Your beautiful comments. Pankaj Tripathi, Vimal, and Ishita, and then Gurinder, then Sakshi, then Mamta. I'm sorry, I can't read all the names. Manisha Chaturvedi, and Info Students, and This is a group from UK. Nisha Agarwal, thank you. And then Varinder Kumarji, thank you very much. And Nancy Sagma, that's very good. Mr. Chakrabarti, so Subharjeet Chakrabarti, thank you. And there are many others, all these whose name I could not make a mention. I will take it next time because we have to close it down. And I've got a next program coming in Southeast Asia. So I'll be going to Singapore from here now. Thank you very much. And Madam Marilyn, I would request you now take a sound sleep. You are up for the last 4 hours having so many deliberations. And Raki, thank you very much for joining from India. And thanks a lot. It was wonderful to have both of you. It's just an appetizer. It's just an appetizer, because what happens is when you travel so much, when you meet so many people, and when you come to my age at the 72, you want to share more and more with the people, with the humanity, give back to the society whatsoever you can, instead of just taking it from the society. So God had been very kind. I did mention, somebody wrote a comment over here. I closed the remarks with that. Yes, Sir Ken Robinson, I did mention he is from UK. He went to United States. He got back to UK and finally he passed away. And I'm sorry, we lost a good friend. But you do watch, somebody made a mention, Equivalent Indian. You must watch Dr. Sugata Mitra. There are 4,000 videos you will go across. And that video is also mind-blowing. No teacher around. There is a wall. There are 2 computers fitted in the wall and camera on the top, children learning at their own. After 1 month, when the data is being taken, you take out the output from there. What exactly have they picked up? So do children need supervision all the time? Or do they have a creativity? That's what Rakiji and Madam Marilyn was talking over here. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. So green morning, green afternoon, and green evening to everybody, wherever you are world over.